For a few weeks now, the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield has had the internet going nuts. Everyone has been talking about this gun. There's in a forum, a blog, a YouTube page that hasn't at least mentioned or referenced the M&P Shield. Now, I can't think of any other reason but to give complete credit to the marketing department at Smith & Wesson, because quite frankly, there's nothing groundbreaking about this gun besides the fact that it's never been done by Smith & Wesson. Single stack 9mm handguns have been around since I can remember. Now granted, I'm not that old, but nonetheless, they've been around. Most notably Car's been making single stack 9mm for ages now, and even smaller than this. But for some reason, everyone is going crazy about the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield. Why? Let's find out. Now, considering all the noise and the fuss that you hear about the M&P Shield, you'd swear that this was a completely new revolutionary gun. And to be quite frankly honest with you, it's not. It is in essence a Smith & Wesson M&P 9C cut in half, literally. I mean, look at it. Everything is the same. Right down to the stamping on the slide, to the peephole, everything. The extractor on this gun looks just like the M&P 9C. Now, here's the thing. I think that is actually a good thing. I think that is actually what adds to the appeal of this particular firearm, is the familiarity that you get with going down in size but still having the same manual of arms. The only difference you're going to notice aesthetically on this gun is the slide safety. Now, M&Ps have come with safeties before. The only difference is they weren't recessed against the side of the frame. They kind of protruded a little bit, almost like a 1911 type safety. So with this particular firearm, you get the slide safety that's kind of flush against the frame. Other than that, it's exactly the same gun from an aesthetic standpoint. Much like a car, when you take a car, for instance, and then you cut the roof off and you make it into a convertible, it kind of compromises some of the structural rigidity of the car. The same thing can almost be said about a handgun when it's cut down to a subcompact size as far as the ergonomics are concerned. Now, when we talk about the Shield and the fact that it's been cut down in half from the M&P 9C, I have to say that the ergonomics that were renowned in the Smith & Wesson M&P 9C series were actually not that jeopardized. They weren't jeopardized as much as I thought they would be, because in this particular sense, all they've done is just made it thinner. Now, you do notice that it's a lot thinner, as when you hold it, the back strap can kind of jab into the side, into the palm of your hand a little bit, but it's nothing that's going to make you feel uncomfortable. It just works. I really have to give them props for that, and that this gun could have been really funky, really weird and awkward from a feel standpoint, especially for those who were familiar with this with the Wesson M&P 9C. If I put them side by side, there's a noticeable difference in terms of width. But where the Smith & Wesson M&P 9C fills your hand up a little bit more, the Shield, it's just slim. It almost is likened to the Glock 36. The Glock 36 kind of almost feels the same way, except since Glock utilizes a different ergonomic system as far as the checkering on the actual hand, as far as the checkering on the handle of the gun, the M&P is actually a lot more comfortable, where the Glock is a bit more aggressive, a bit more rugged, and kind of digs into your hand a little bit more. The ergonomics on this gun work just fine. Another thing that kind of adds to the ergonomic system of this gun is the safety. Now, the safeties that were on the original M&Ps were actually a lot better to actuate. They're easier to actuate. This one is a little bit different. There are a lot of reviews out there that are saying that it's an easy gun, that the safety is actually easy to actuate. It is, but it isn't. And what I mean by that is this. The safety is so recessed against the side of the frame that you can easily present this gun and need it in a defensive situation and forget that it's on. The safeties on the older M&P style guns, they worked from the standpoint that they protruded out from the side of the frame, which allowed you to have kind of a tactile reminder that the safety was on. In this particular instance, it's so flush against the frame, you don't even notice it at all. And I can run my finger up and down all day long on this and not actuate the safety or disengage it. Whereas on the safeties of the past, there's no way I could have done this without actuating or disengaging the safety. But for the most part, it is relatively easy to disengage and engage. Anybody who's ever owned a Smith & Wesson M&P knows that the biggest weakness, the Achilles heel of this gun, of the Smith & Wesson M&P series, was the trigger. The trigger was just a mess. It was mushy. There was a lot of uptake, and there was, in essence, no reset. It was very easy to get a phantom reset on this gun. And that was a big complaint for a lot of people with respect to the M&P series. So what Smith & Wesson did was they decided to fix that. And so now on the M&P Shield, you have basically a trigger with a little uptake and then a very clean break. Now, one of the noticeable differences about this particular firearm is also the reset. That's the reset right there. And if you listen, you can actually hear it this time. Boom. Now, Smith & Wesson claims that this is by far their best trigger that they've had on their guns. And I have to be honest with you, that's not really saying much, because even though this trigger is a lot better to me than the original Smith & Wesson M&P series triggers, this trigger is still kind of subpar. It's still not a Glock trigger. And to be honest with you, I don't blame them for not being completely like Glock triggers, but it's not. And I'd have to say that the Glock trigger is still a better trigger in my mind. But it is not that big of a difference. And obviously, for many people, it's good enough to work. And I do like this trigger better than the original trigger. Now, keep in mind, this gun hasn't been shot yet. I haven't shot it. Now, I know that as time goes on and I start to shoot it, this trigger will start to break in. And I'm pretty sure that the character of this trigger will completely change. And when it does, I'll do another video talking about it. But for the most part, the trigger it's a noticeable improvement from the last time around. I will say that. You can actually hear the reset and feel the reset. Now, the reset is a little gritty, but like I said before, this is a new gun. It hasn't been shot, so it needs to be broken in. Now, if you take a look at this firearm, another noticeable thing about it is you have full-size firearm sights. I really like the 3-dot sights on the original M&P, and they've transferred it over to this particular series also. And another thing that I really like about the sights on the particular Shield, along with the M&P series, is the fact that the front sight is a little bit smaller than the back sight, allowing you to acquire your targets a little bit faster and a little bit better than you would, let's say, with the Glock, whose sights are, I swear to God, they're the exact same, and you can't line them up to save your life. This gun also comes equipped with a few safety features. Of course, you have the slide mounted safety here that goes up and down, which is very positive, and you can sweep it up and down. You just got to remember to take it off when you pull it, simply because you can easily forget. Easily, trust me. Just like the M&P series, you have the little peephole, which just serves as a chamber indicator. Now, the peep sight works pretty well depending on the type of brass you have in the chamber, especially considering that if it's a darker type of brass or darker type of metal that you're running with, let's say steel, it's going to be hard to see. If you're running with the brass, the gold colored, and all that stuff like that, you can look down there and easily see that there's a round chamber. And also on the back here, you have what they call with the sights on this particular firearm. You can't adjust the back, even though there's a place for an Allen wrench to go in there. You'd have to drift the front sight. You'd have to drift the front sights here. So I don't really too much play around with my sights that much, so that's not a big deal to me. But knowing that I can adjust something is also, it's pretty good to know. One thing I will say about this particular firearm is that the quality on this gun is a steal, considering the price. I'm sorry, it just is. This gun feels way more expensive than what it is. And especially considering the way Glocks and cars and the Kel-Tecs feel, for its price and considering its class, this gun feels immaculate as far as the quality is concerned. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick takedown on this particular firearm. From this standpoint, what I'll do is I'll lock the slide back down the takedown bar. I'll slide home, fire it, pull the trigger off, and you get all the same parts that you get in M&P basically on a miniature level. I noticed that the extractor is huge, It has a huge extractor. It almost feels like it's something that I would end up breaking inevitably because I just tend to break shit. But it's the same construct as your regular M&Ps, nothing different, very Glock-like. But it is all quality. You get a stainless steel God rod, which is really good considering, which does kind of add weight to the particular gun. It does add some weight, but the weight kind of gives it added confidence whenever you're utilizing this gun. So I can't really complain about that. So now with the shield, as far as a concealed carry weapon, let me just go and say the cliche shit that everybody else says. When I put it on, it's like it's not there. I put it on and I forget about it. It feels like I'm carrying nothing. What else is there? Y'all help me out. I can't remember. But basically, its whole purpose is to be a concealed carry weapon that's light and thin, and it does that. I mean, it's light and it's thin. So from that standpoint, it works as a concealed carry weapon. It really does work. Now they just need to make some holsters for it, because at this point I'm running with a cheapo, but I have to say that it is light enough. It's not groundbreakingly light, but it's light enough. And as far as size is concerned, I mean, look at it. I mean, it's thin as hell. So it's gonna work as a concealed carry weapon. There isn't anything, like I said before, groundbreaking about it. It's a thin, single stack, 9mm concealed carry weapon. That is the whole point. It's called a shield, I guess, as a form of protection against your life. But for the most part, like I said, I like the way it feels in hand. It feels really good. I don't feel like I have a miniature gun. I feel like I honestly do have a real gun in hand, right up until I look at it and realize how small it is. But for the simple fact that this gun is the size that it is, with the capacity and the manual of arms and the improvement on the trigger, I like the shield. I do. Now there's a lot of people talking about the shield and how amazing it is and how great of a gun it is, and it is a good gun. It is really a good gun, but it is not groundbreaking as some people are making it out to be. It's a really good gun, a really good concealed carry weapon, and especially for the price is what makes this gun exceptional. You buy a car in this price range, you're going to be pushing it. I think the MSRP on this is about $449. A car easily run you $600. Now, a car does have the new CW and CM line, which kind of equate to the same price point as this particular gun, but with a completely different manual of arms, where the safety on the car stems from a long trigger pull. This here is almost Glock-like. So if you run an M&P already and you want to have the same manual of arms, this is an absolute perfect alternative for your concealed carry weapon. So with that being said, though, that's Mr. Calling on the War, and this is the M&P Shield, and we're out.